So today we're going to talk about hyperbolic paraboloids, and basically they also involve parabolas. However, because they have the word hyperbolic, so obviously they also involve some hyperbolas here, which make them have this really weird shape, and it's really hard to draw compared to other graphs. So let's look at the equation. So the equation here is x squared over a squared minus y squared over b squared is equal to z over c. So notice how our equation is minus instead of plus. So if we had a plus, it's going to be an elliptic paraboloid. If we have a minus, it's a hyperbolic paraboloid. So the same thing, there are still 2 degree 2 terms, and there's only 1 degree 1 term. So now we can try to graph an equation of a hyperbolic paraboloid. So basically, let's try out the equation x squared over 25 minus y squared over 16 equals z over 5. So let's just try to graph this equation. We use the traces. So traces are like what the graph looks like when they intersect different planes. Because we have a 3D coordinate system, there are 3 planes. So one is, actually there are infinite many planes, but the most common are these ones. So basically you want to see what your graph will look like when they intersect these planes, like a 2D shape. So the xy traced, and also the yz trace. So what your graph looks like when it intersects. So this is like a front view. And then the xz trace, like a side view, like it cuts through this graph. So now firstly, if we went to the xy trace, we set z be 0. So therefore we have x squared over 25 is equal to y squared over 16 when z is 0. And then we can take the square root of both sides. We have y over 4 is equal to plus minus x over 5. If we just multiply both sides by 4, then we have y is equal to, so we end up with y is equal to 4 over 5, so plus minus 4 over 5x. So this is a set of 2 lines. So basically, if we just graph that, then basically we get something like this. So the lines intersect the origin, and one has a positive slope, one has a negative slope, so something like that. So basically, that's our first trace. So that's the xy trace. So now let's look at the xz trace. So in the xz trace, we set y equal to 0. So when y is 0, we have x squared over 25 is equal to z over 5. So actually, that's just a parabola. So we multiply both sides by 5, we have x, so we have z is 1 over 5 times x squared. So that basically just gives us a parabola, and it's facing upwards. So it's opening upwards. So it's something like this, I assume. So actually it should be a little fatter because of the coefficient. Like that, and it intersects the origin, so it goes on forever. So now let's just graph the yz trace here. So for the yz trace, you do the same thing, and you just let x be 0. So when x is 0, we have y squared over 16, or minus is z over 5, so you just have a parabola again, but it's facing downwards. So basically, you multiply both sides by 5 and you have negative, z equals negative 5 over 16 y squared. So basically we draw another parabola, however it's facing downwards this time. It still intersects at the origin though. So something like that, and it goes on forever. So we just combine our 3 traces and we draw the 3D coordinate plane. So we have z, we have y, and we have x. So basically, so we first draw the YZ trace because it's the front view, so it's the easiest to visualize. So the YZ trace is gonna be like this. And then we have the XZ trace. So the XZ trace is a somewhat, it's a somewhat like, it's a parabolic shape, it's a parabola, and it's facing upwards. And then you also have the XY trace. The XY trace, you have straight lines like that. So that kind of explains why the graph is so hard to draw. So okay, so the final graph would just look something like this one, except it might be altered a little, like if we might turn it slightly away. So it'd be something like, like that. So if we just imagine you have a hyperbola here and also one on this side or on the other, and then the same thing occurs, so you have another parabola. So here you have a parabola also for the XZ trace. And then basically for the XY trace, if you just look from it from up to down, you'll see 2 lines. So yeah, so thanks for watching.